it's been quite a week in the nation. Quite a week, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's a lot of happenings. I mean, everywhere. Just yesterday at the plenary session at the House of Reps, a bill to make voting mandatory in Nigeria just passed the second reading.
Stage,
And we've seen a lot of, dissenting, voices and opinions here and there. Is it not going to be infringing on the rights of the people? I mean, the rights of freedom of the people. What about some cases where we have like insecurity issues? And some people do not vote for some reasons. We quite understand the angle from which the House of Reps members are coming from. If you look at the general elections in 2023, out of over 93 million registered voters, how many people came out to vote? So we've been having voter apathy in Nigeria, and that has been a big problem. So in a bid to curb that, they are trying to make voting mandatory and even suggesting, 100,000 naira fine and 6 months imprisonment. The question is, how will it work? Won't it lead to victimization of some people who, for cogent reasons, might not be able to cast their votes during elections?
Of course, that is why, because that would be, if it passes, that would be a landmark, bill. If it's assented to, then a law. Now, but then, just like we said, you said rather, rights are going to be considered, but then they will tell you no right is absolute anywhere. But then there are reasons. How did we even get to the level of getting it mandatory? It should be a patriotic thing in which everybody should look forward to doing. But there are reasons why some persons stay away. Personal reasons, trust issues, the process. How is it that you want me to be a part of it? Some have their religious beliefs. There are some, persons, in which their belief, doesn't align with that. But then in a nation like Nigeria, the grand norm supersedes every other rule, every other law. But then it's not just about that. When it goes to the third stage, then it will be such a rule cannot just be passed by those guys. When I mean the guys parliamentarians, it will be open up for public hearing, actually, because it's not just another bill. It's a very important one in which people will be called, to submit papers and all of those things. I hope it gets to that level. And it won't just be vetoed by
because it was
with what we have seen so far.
The voice votes. There is a voice vote.
But when it gets to the third reading, it will be open up, and then everybody will make their contribution on that, stakeholders, the public, Nigerians, and everybody. But then, that aside, another issue is the issue of rotational presidency. That has been muted.
No, they threw that one out.
And I think that one has been thrown off. And many persons spoke to say, but then when you look at them, some of them, when they were talking about those things, sounded, logical. But politicians, you will never know the intent of why some of them want that and why some of them don't want that.
Okay,
because people will always say things that sometimes people want to hear. I heard the argument of Bello El-Rufai, that El-Rufai's son, the House of Rep member, and it sounded very logical to say we might be setting a bad precedent, because if you talk about rotational presidency, the geopolitical zones are 6. When it's the time of a particular zone, let's say the Southwest, for instance, so how do they come about their own candidate for that? Will it be the Oyos or the Ifes or the Ijeshas or the Jebus?
That will be a problem.
That's another one, because we have many dialects and languages even within those geopolitical zones. When you go to the North Central, you don't want to go there. There are very many. Is it the Thieves? Is it the Junkuns? Is it the Galas? Is it the Idoma? So then they narrow it down again. And there are some persons too who knows that if actually this goes into or law, if it passes through, they have presidential ambition.
Absolutely.
So before he returns to their turn, that man will have been very old.
Just imagine each geopolitical zone 7-8 years, and we have 6 of them.
You understand now?
So it means if a geopolitical zone should start now, today, it will take another like 48 years.
Let's imagine it starts now with Tinubu, so to speak, or with the Southwest. Don't let me say Tinubu. With the Southwest, we have a Southwesterner. who is in charge now 4 years, if he recontest, or another South Westerner, is re-elected, either the incumbent one or another person, before it will come back to the Southwest.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm saying.
That'll be almost 40 years.
You had another 40 years.
Before it comes back to your own. So what happens to those that have ambitions
now? Those who pick last, we have to wait 48 years from the beginning. So exactly. It doesn't make any sense. And looking at the compulsory, the bill sponsored by Tajuddin Abbas, that's compulsory voting.
Yeah,
some people have argued, mandatory voting. So some people have argued that in some countries, voting is actually compulsory. In countries like Australia, Belgium, Brazil. But for Nigeria, I would say personally, before you make voting mandatory, you need to put some things in place.
Right.
What's the ease of voting? What are the processes involved? Now that it's not even mandatory, if you know the kind of stress a lot of people go through just to cast their vote, I know the sacrifices
to even get your PVC at times.
Just to cast my vote in the last election. It wasn't easy because I had relocated from where I was staying, so it wasn't easy. It was a huge sacrifice. Just
you have to move.
Sure, just to make sure I voting lodge somewhere just to cast my vote that day. So it wasn't easy at all. So we need to, make our processes easy before we start talking about making voting mandatory in Nigeria.
I agree, and not just easy, trustworthy. Because that's even the cross for many persons. Many persons are still licking the wound with what happened with the 2023 elections. Although there will always be a winner, there will always be a loser. You can't always expect your candidate to win. That's just it. But then that 2023 election divided, except we want to lie to ourselves, this nation more, and some are still with that narrative. The South versus the North, even the South, the Southwest versus the Southeast, even within a particular state, some are, these places for us. All of you can go back to wherever you are from. Their narrative was there. And, the other part are saying, we make you people here. It's no man's land. And these are some of the things that election brought. Now, how about the security during those elections? If you are going to tell me that it will be mandatory.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in my polling unit, I know that most of them there, they are armed to the teeth. And it's a no-go area. And the law is mandating me to come out. So who guards my life?
Absolutely.
In a situation where we saw, especially that last election, where you have non-state actors publicly stating and pronouncing that if you are not going to vote for a particular party,
don't bother,
move away from here, because if we catch you, you bring problem. And you see security personnel that are there, and I'm not going to vote for their candidate in that polling unit, and you are telling me to vote. So what do? Then I have to cast my vote against my will, and if I go back home, it will be a sin or an offense. So what happens in that case? So it's not just by mouthing it. There are many things that goes with it. And what happens at the end of the day, and I get to hear the word glitch. After I've been mandated to come and vote, I don't even need to be mandated. I'm a patriotic Nigerian, I'm more than 18. But then at the end of the day, I got to know that the reason why something could not be is something that you promised us, that you use billions, to say you are ready for, is because
I think we still have a long way to go.
There is a glitch.
Yeah,
just like the glitch that happened 2 days ago.
We have a long way to go before we start talking about mandatory voting in Nigeria. If they can put all those things in place.
Just recently,
they were talking about having diaspora vote.
Diaspora voting. Yeah.
Well, you've not even solved the problems you are having here in Nigeria.
Well, maybe we can do the two at the same time. And Nigerians are saying, excuse us, you are talking about diaspora voting. Even the voting on site. Some will not have their, voting materials until possibly later in the day. There are accusations of people voting into the night. Even that's at the federal level. What happens to the state elections that are held? What happened at will that compulsory voting affect the local council election? In which some states are still, going back and forth to the court and all of those things. And yesterday as well, there was a CTC copy of a court order from the Federal High Court, and in that case was instituted by the local government chairman that were elected on the platform of the PDP. They went to court, the allocation thing, and so they sued and the CBN in Osun State, the CBN, the Accountant General of the Federation, the AGF, and I think they got a judgment in their favor saying that status quo should be maintained. No funds should be disbursed. Either to the ones they refer to as the yes or no local government chairman, but as it is, that money should not be released to those persons. We'll get to look into that maybe in our subsequent programs. But for now, the papers are in. It's going to be an extensive one on the newspaper segment for today. You know why? This is the Thank God It's Friday edition with Daniel and I. Stay with us. All right, we start with this day newspaper, this day. All right, and the big bold headline here says, inflation declines to 23.71% amid lower food energy prices. Inflation declines to 23.71% amid lower food and energy prices and severe inequity. Kebbi, Niger, others, and Varsity Dawn hails price moderation as boost to investor sentiment and macroeconomy. Yeah, the inflation rate has been returned to be around 23.71%.
From where? From 24.23. A decline of 1.06, so we should be celebrating, right?
Nobody said that, but they're just saying it that, okay, maybe we have, to say the fact, maybe very negligible though, I've heard really that maybe prices of things are getting reduced, but very negligibly actually, because if something is being sold for 2,000 naira, and now it's being sold for 1,900.
Maybe you should tell me where you're shopping, where prices of things have been reduced. I've not experienced it.
You learned, okay, maybe. But then I just will say, where were we before now? Absolutely. You know, when you are possibly around 20% at a point, and all of a sudden things got bad and you are around 30, 34, and now it has reduced to 24 or 23. One will say maybe it's a win, but how significant?
That's my point.
And
exactly.
Will it be something that is maintained? You know, that reduction, further reduction, so that at least whatever coins people are making, they can have true value.
Absolutely, because if we were at 24.23 before, we are now at 23.17, which is just a difference of 1.06. As when we drop to, like, say, 14%, that's what I'm saying.
Does that happen anywhere?
That's almost 50% reduction in inflation.
Wow, would that be at all of that? Although everybody will love that, actually, because that's the way to go. It will make life really, really better and simpler. And I think everybody will love that. Moving on from the front page of this day newspaper, Tinubu heads to Rome on Pope Leo XIV's invitation with bragging right of 62% Christian appointees. Again, Tinubu heads to Rome on Pope Leo XIV's invitation with bragging right of 62% Christian appointees. Bishops Ugaji, Kegama, Kuka, and Martins on delegation. All right, some of these names, except they are indisposed, you expect that they will be there. Absolutely. These are the big names when it comes to Roman Catholic, denomination in Nigeria. Now, President expected back in Abuja on Tuesday. Okay, all right. So we wish Pope Leo XIV, all the best as he's saddled with that very huge leadership responsibility. And of course, we hope Africans, leaders, President Tinubu, everybody can learn one thing or the other, especially, although, the Vatican City is a country itself within another country,
An independent state.
Yeah. So,
and again, leading 1.4 billion Catholics around the world, and its influence extends even beyond the Catholic Church.
Of course,
so
that's somebody. Even if the person was to be just another leader, not a religious leader, if your leadership has the membership of over 1 billion people. Man, that's huge. In fact, I'm not sure at any lifetime of any pope they have ever visited every countries where the church is. How can you do that? 1 billion people, but maybe they might do in continent after continent, and these are some of the issues as well. So we just hope that one day somebody of our color will emerge as the pope. We don't know how. I don't know how, but maybe it will just happen someday.
Yeah.
It will be a good feeling. It's not by complexion, really, but it's good to have somebody that resembles you occupy the highest position.
That is really when we can truly say that people don't care about racism.
Yeah, that's the inclusivity anymore. They have been talking about. When it goes around, then that's where we can say, oh, this is truly, truly inclusive, even when the capacity is there and anybody can be, can emerge. All right. Below that, the third annual general meeting of Access Holdings, you have the big wigs there. They leading the park. Away from that, top strip, NUPLC to raise Nigeria's active oil rigs from 36 to 50 by end of 2025. So, Daniel, if you have some money, some collection, you might have, something to yourself. Some oil rig will be raised and made active, from 36 to 50 by the end of 2025. Maybe you start saving some money.
When we talk about oil and gas, we talk about big money there. It's just like dope money in Nigeria.
just reach out to your connect. Everyone, let them bring the bag, as they say it. Now, Bloomberg report at $5.34 billion, Nigeria tops Shell's 2024 global oil tax payments, and Seplat predict H1, that's H1 revenue to dwarf full year 2024, $1.1 billion. And lastly, Rabiu, Dangote Bua Groups will stabilize cement prices for federal government project. Why stabilizing it for federal government project alone? Why about, oh Lord, I must say. Now, how about individual projects? In fact, government even have money to do whatever they want to do. How about somebody somewhere who just needs some few bags of cement to just have a decent bungalow to themselves? I don't understand.
Maybe they believe it will still trickle down to the people.
Otherwise,
I mean, why would you stabilize for the government alone?
That will be all from the This Day newspaper.
And from the This Day newspaper, we move to the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. UTME, reps to probe poor performance. Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, reps to probe poor performance, with riders to provide allocation for construction of CBT centers in 774 local government areas in 2026. In 2026 budget, advises board to release results of under 16 candidates. Quite interesting. The reps have to make provisions for construction of CBT centers in all the local government areas, 774 of them. That will be really interesting. And those are plans for 2026 budget by the reps. Away from that, moving to the top strip, Nigeria's inflation eases to 23.71%. That's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Nigeria's inflation eases to 23.71%. Away from that, ECOWAS court orders Nigeria to release man detained for 16 years without trial. ECOWAS court orders Nigeria to release man detained for 16 years without trial. Quite interesting. Someone detained for 16 years. I mean, without trial, it happens a lot. If you go to the prisons, you'll see a lot of people have been there for so many years.
I'll tell you.
They've not even, gone for trial. Quite unfortunate. Away from that, elections. Reps push for 6-month imprisonment, 100,000 naira fine on non-voting citizens. Reps push for 6-month imprisonment, 100,000 naira fine on non-voting citizens. I think Nigerians should begin to brace up for that. If it is passed and finally becomes a law, some people might have to spend as long as 6 months in prison for not voting.
Yeah.
That will be quite interesting. Away from that, moving on to other stories still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Odua Investment Company posts 82 billion naira comprehensive revenue, declares 518 million naira dividend. Oyo government to deliver Circular Road 2027. Oyo government to deliver Circular Road 2027. You find that story on page 26 of the Nigerian Tribune. Court convicts 10 Thai sailors. Ship slams $4.3 million fine over 32.9 kg cocaine trafficking. Court convicts 10 Thai sailors. Ship slams $4.3 million fine over 32.9 kilograms cocaine trafficking. 32.9 kg, that's dope money. You'll find that story on page 22 of the Nigerian Tribune. Away from that, kidnappers seize ransom bearers in Ondo, demand 30 million naira for APC chair. 2 others release. Kidnappers seize ransom bearers in Ondo, demand 30 million naira for APC chair. 2 others release. So you find a story on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune. And right there at the middle of the page, you see the picture of, from left, the zonal coordinator, National Sports Commission, Mrs. Evelyn Fabumi, and the Ogun State Governor, Prince Dakwa Abiodun, and the team leader, Torch of Unity, Mrs. Mbora Ikana, right there. And of course, Mr. Shadrach Weston, during the exchange of the Torch of Unity for the 22nd edition of the National Sports Festival, tagged Gateway Games 2024 at the City Gate Interchange, Shagamu Expressway on Thursday. That's talking about yesterday. You can see the exchange of the torch going on right there. Moving on to other stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. Bauchi governor insulted my late father, threatened to slap me. Foreign minister. Bauchi governor insults my late father, threatened to slap me. And that's according to Foreign Affairs Minister. Quite a funny story right there. They were actually in a bus. A bus was conveying them from the airport to a particular destination. And Vice President Kashim Shettima was right there. So I saw an account of the narration of the foreign minister, that's Tuga now, when he was narrating what happened. He said he was sitting beside the Vice President, and the Vice President was addressing him. The governor now interjected into what he said was none of his business. That was when the altercation started. So he said the governor threatened him, threatened to slap him. The governor insulted his father, who had died over 20 years ago. So what he said, he claimed, no, some reports claim that the governor actually slapped him. Well, the deputy governor also was in the bus, rushed from the back towards him to attack him. But he said he stood up to show the governor his height. He can't, take him on one-on-one. So he said the governor did not slap him, and they were able to.
This is supposed to be between who again?
The governor and the foreign affairs minister.
And a foreign affairs minister of the country, in the presence of the vice president.
Yeah.
And they are supposed to be inside a vehicle.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
simply because some are saying that the foreign minister is actually eyeing the seat of governorship. He may contest for governorship.
So what's wrong with that?
Governors, they always have their own candidates, and they don't want opposition.
And so, the man even narrating the story, they are supposed to, 2 of them are in executive positions. One at the head, at the state level, the other part of the cabinet at the federal level, and he claimed it happened in the presence of the vice president. So they should, in as much they want to be petty and they want to roll that way, they just should pass the mic to the vice president. Let him come and state as a witness to,
absolutely,
to the harassment, alleged harassment. Yeah. And these are supposed to be our leaders.
Yeah, yeah. Where we have a governor and deputy governor, trying to beat up the foreign affairs minister
in the presence of the vice president.
Yeah. And they're all from the same. They're all from the same state. Quite interesting.
See your leaders.
Absolutely. Finally, from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, again, PDP, NNPC lose 3 reps to APC. Again, PDP, NMPP lose 3 reps to APC. APC National Chairman Ganduje witnesses defection. You'll find that story on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune. And that'll be all from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
All right, from that, we move to the Daily Trust. Nigerians reject reps' proposal for compulsory voting. Nigerians reject reps' proposal for compulsory voting. Lawmakers recommend 6 months jail, 100,000 naira for defaulters. All right. And countries, there are some statements there which reads, countries like Australia, Belgium, and Brazil have adopted compulsory voting with positive outcomes in political participation and public accountability. When more people vote, election results are more likely to reflect the true will of the people. And another statement says, no country, not even the most totalitarian country, compels its citizens to vote. Voting is a civic responsibility. If you want, you can vote. If you don't, you can stay in your house. Compelling people to vote is a violation of their rights. You want to know those who say this? Pick up a copy of the paper, and below that you have picture of a hideout discovered during a joint operation between troops of Operation Hadinkai and the Civilian Joint Task Force, at Sambisa Forest in Gain Malami Ali Garingukosa, and all of those places in Bonus there. You could see the hideout of these criminals there. And below that, APC, PDP, LP in coalition against Tinubu, Atiku. All right. I think former Vice President Atiku Abubakar really means business right now, because he has been sounding, like a very willing vuvuzela at every opportunity he gets, actually, online, offline, and all of those things. Because for him to say APC, PDP, LP in coalition against Tinubu, the question is, why did he have APC as part of it?
He knows what he's saying.
As PDP and LP as well in coalition against Tinubu. What does it mean? The ruling party.
It means
against
he's been working
president?
on some APC candidates for him to make that statement. So
How is that working for him? That's the question.
Time will tell.
What part of the divide has been moving towards his side, or people from his end moving towards the other side? But then it is what it is. All right. Below that, and at the bottom strip, gunmen invade palace, abduct traditional ruler in Kogi. Gunmen invade palace, abduct traditional ruler in Kogi. How? How will somebody come and steal an Oriade?
Because they can. That's why they did it. They can, and they did, and they got away with it. If they knew they wouldn't succeed, they wouldn't try it. So they knew it was an easy target.
If a retired general, brigadier general, can be abducted and seized for almost 2 months, and he took his colleagues to donate for ransom, what I was saying. But that doesn't justify. We security-wise, we're in a terrible place, actually, as a country. So the question is, who we save? Maybe people in the government house and people in the barracks. In fact, there was a time here that the NDA was breached, in this country years ago. But that is not a good story to tell. Now, if you're not around here, we'll call them KBC. If KBC can be stolen, can be abducted, what happened to a subject?
No one is safe.
In the subjects in those communities, in that particular community, they are king. So the chiefs and the queens and the subject. So what happens to them?
You know what? Perhaps to be safe in Nigeria, you just have to be a nobody. So nobody takes interest in you. Otherwise, you are.
Do you know how many nobodies are being kidnapped and their bosses vandalized, and those guys are taken into the bush every day? In fact, some security analysts will tell you, for every 2 or 3 incidents reported, maybe we have double.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't make it to the headlines.
Yeah, people who have gone just like that without being reported.
And some of those people that are affected will not even come to the police. They just do whatever they can do silently, and if they are lucky, because it takes luck again not just by payment. There are people who have paid, and those kidnapped are not released.
Look at those who wanted to go and pay ransom, and they were abducted.
And they abducted.
So there's no guarantee.
No. And until we are total with this fight, we are total. Nobody, you know, just like the symbol of justice that has its eyes blindfolded and the sword on one side, the scale at the other side. That's the way it should work. Until that security, push gets to that level that we don't care the language that you are speaking. We don't care the political expediency. We don't care about the kind of votes that we will get from your area. We don't get the religion that you belong to. In as much a criminal, we will treat you like one. Criminal. And we are not waiting for pushback. We take the war to them. Let them know. If I let them know that there is no place for forgiveness at this point, the moment you are involved, you are gone. And if you have that drive for like 6 months, everybody will couple. Not the ones that you can do everything that you want to do and kill and decimate and overrun an army base and kill people's fathers and people's mothers, and later you come and do, I'm done. You can de-radicalize me. It doesn't work that way.
Atiku actually mentioned it when he was speaking recently. He said when Boko Haram insurgency came up in 2002, when he was in power with Obasanjo, that the president called him into his office and said, hey, what do we do? And he said, summon the service chiefs and give them an ultimatum. Let them give us a timeline. If they cannot flush out these people, let them resign. He said the president did that. And he said within weeks, they flushed those people out. And they did not regroup until after their tenure, after their administration.
It's an asymmetric war. It's not a regular war. But then if those guys can be flourishing in their wickedness, we as a state, as a country, as a people, should flourish more. The will of the evil should never overcome the good.
Absolutely.
That's the way it should be. So Nigerians will surely survive. But how many persons will have died, before we get to that serious level? Now, drop in food prices, others reduces inflation to 23.71%, although Daniel is not pleased with that 1.06 something percent. All right. Now, 8 killed, houses burnt in another attack in Plateau. Plateau again. Plateau in the news. 8 killed. When we're saying 8 killed, that's 8 human beings killed. His lives lost. Now, houses burnt in another attack in Plateau. That is the same Plateau that those security chiefs have visited, those politicians have visited, and they have said, don't worry, we will take care of you. Same Plateau. All right. Top strip. Recharging Lake Chad critical to war against terror in Northeast. CDS. Recharging Lake Chad critical to war against terror in Northeast. You want to recharge, you want to overcharge, turbocharge, whatever charge, please go ahead. And from bandits den to Hall of Fame, Yauri girls excel in JAM. That's a very good news there. Some of those Yauri students who were kidnapped at a time, and some of them have really done well in their JAM examination. That's really the description for bandits den to Hall of Fame. And it shows that we can do a lot.
Yeah, you can always pick up from any point in life. For them who have picked up and they're recovering and they're even doing well, they're carrying on with their life.
Yeah.
It's quite commendable.
Some of those Chibok girls too, who are rescued, many of them are flourishing in different parts of the world.
Some got scholarships.
Yeah,
even to the US.
Because they are blazing. They have left that point of their life. And the thing is, some of them, in their head, they might never return to that community. Because whenever they return, what they see is trauma. And many of their mates were not that lucky. Some died. Some are still there. Leah Sheribu is still there. Till tomorrow.
Some are raising children there.
For
terrorists.
Yeah. And Salah, prices of rams may go up as Niger bans livestock export. Salah, prices of rams may go up as Niger, this is Niger, not Niger.
That should be Niger. It's talking about exports.
Livestock export. All right. Whatever. People around there will say, whatever it meets in your hand, make sure you celebrate yourself.
Absolutely.
That will be all from the Daily Trust.
From the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, we move to the Vanguard. Let's check out some of the stories on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Ways out of insecurity, ways out of banditry, rather, insurgency by ex-generals, security experts. Ways out of banditry, insurgency by ex-generals, security experts. with riders. We need a 1,000,000-man strong military force to tackle the menace. We need a 1,000,000-man strong military force to tackle the menace. That's according to Brigadier General Bello, retired. International diplomacy not working in Nigeria's favor, and that's credited to Major Ephosium. Then we also have another writer right there. Address soldiers' fatigue. That's attributed to Major Olorunbe. That's talking about ways, out of banditry and insurgency in Nigeria. And experts have been talking right there. Away from that, moving to the top street. 2027, APC, PDP, LP involved in anti-Tinubu coalition. APC, PDP, LP involved in anti-Tinubu coalition. That's according to article. You'll find a story on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Pope Leo XIV invites Tinubu to inauguration in Rome. Pope Leo XIV invites Tinubu to inauguration in Rome. All right, Tinubu will be right there on the invitation of the Pope himself. Away from that, moving towards the bottom right now, UTME glitches will be exquisitely. Others worry over impact on students' parents. UTME glitches will be exquisitely. Others worry over impact on students' parents. You'll find a story on page 8 of the Guardian, of the Vanguard newspaper rather. Away from that, defections. We don't want Nigeria becoming one-party state. Defections. We don't want Nigeria becoming one-party state. APC. Indeed, you don't want Nigeria becoming one-party state. That's a nice one coming from APC. When people keep defecting, and there's no surprise at all. We'll be talking about that later on the program. The major reason why a lot of these politicians are gravitating towards the APC. It seems as though a lot of, some people will say a lot of money is being shared. They are getting, higher allocations. Governors are getting more allocations since subsidy was removed. Members of the National Assembly are getting more allocations. So, of course, they are just gravitating towards the center as if a magnet is attracting them. Look at the case of Delta State. They said they just want to connect more
with the center.
Absolutely. As if you're talking about the Bluetooth connection here. That's interesting, talking about politics in Nigeria. Away from that, still on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Bandits attack, abduct Kogi monarch from palace. Bandits attack, abduct Kogi monarch from palace. Quite interesting. If bandits can have the effrontery, to abduct the monarch, the question again is, who is safe in Nigeria? And that'll be all from the front page of the Vanguard. Okay, very quickly, under 20 AFCON, South Africa's Amajita stopped Flying Eagles' 8th title dream. South Africa's Amajita stopped Flying Eagles' 8th title dream. You can check out that story in the sports section of the Vanguard newspaper.
Right, and talking about sports, for me, there is this news about Nigerian international Taiwo Awoniyi, who actually collided against a post at the weekend, and it was quite a severe collision, actually. He got a pass from his teammate Elanga, and then he wanted to connect to just tap into the net, and he missed that, clashed into the pole, and it was severe. But unfortunately, the situation wasn't well managed because it took for long for him, to be treated, and he went on playing. And I think that aggravated. He couldn't even continue at some point. So on Monday or thereabout, it got bad. He had to be rushed to a hospital, and he was induced to a coma, actually. But yesterday or 2 days ago, we learned he's out of the coma.
Oh,
and he's doing well. He's responding to treatment right now, and that's Nigerian international striker Taiwo Awoniyi, which many persons believed, when you don't try, so there are some times that you don't try to put racial coloration to some of these things. But I can't imagine if you were to be a, one of the top guys, you can't have such a collision and you still go on to play. In fact, Nottingham Forest is this club, and I've been checking their timeline yesterday. I think they have not done enough to really make that guy feel like, oh, you are one of us. Because if that had happened to an England international, I think the only thing I've seen since that incident happened was a statement from the club, maybe one of the speaker to say, yes, he has been admitted to the hospital, and that's all.
But don't you think
such a serious
yeah. But in this case, don't you think that decision to keep playing was his as a player? If he hadn't said it was okay to keep playing, I mean,
yeah, there is a personal decision, but there is a medical team who will usually ascertain. Although they will still ask you if you want to go ahead, but there are some situations in which the medical team will override the player's decision to say
you need to rest.
Once they signal the bench to say please sub him, no matter what you do, you are going out, because they know that you might have that determination to keep going ahead, but they know better.
Yeah, there might be.
That's why they are the medical team to say that no, you can't go ahead. And it became very terrible at a time when people were having head collision, possibly head injuries, and many of them will still feel, oh, are you okay? The way they do trace the fingers and all of those things, and they ask them to go ahead. There have been severe situations that have ended up in fatality, in which the players will say, oh, I'm fine. And 5 minutes later, they collapsed.
Just yeah.
And then I think it was made a rule, any head injury, and it's severe, you are going out. Because you might feel okay at that point. And it's an energy sport.
Yeah.
The moment you run here and there,
rushing, you might not really feel the pain at that moment.
But we wish that we would. And, there have been support gathering for him being sent all over the world to say, we are with you. He's a Nigerian, a very young man, very decent at the same time. But before we hit the brakes, the issue of the UTME and the registrar, Jamboloye, who was shedding tears while at that press conference, have drawn the eye of so many persons. We talked about it extensively yesterday. But do you know there is a development, sad one, I think, is the issue of, I saw, maybe I should check it, a post put up by a university, University of Ilorin, as an institution supporting JAMB. And many persons are
on what grounds?
Bless you, my brother. And many persons are thinking, excuse you, a university. Yes, Oloyede used to be the VC of Uni Ilorin, and is quite an influential figure there. But how have we carried a psychophancy as an institution to be supporting JAMB? I wish I can get there.
And they release a statement as an institution.
My brother, I will get it for you. And these are some of the things we are seeing.
If I were students in that kind of institution, I would just pack my bags.
What will you do?
I'll pack my bags and leave.
I wish I can put it up and our team can work on it for us before we eat the breaks. And many persons are thinking, you are supposed to be a university. What is going on with you? I hope we can have it,
Because if an institution has lost a logical sense of reasoning,
I'm telling you.
I'm afraid what they are teaching their students.
All right, I think I have it now. And it was attributed to the man, and you could see that subtle. Some of those persons who are supporting Professor Oloyede, which is okay and fine, in individual capacity, you could see the Uni Ilorin official handle retweeting their tweets. There is one from Dr. Dipo Awojide saying Professor Ishaq Oloyede still remains one of the finest administrators we have in Nigeria. We have had in Nigeria. He reformed University of Ilorin. He also reformed JAMB. Check who retweeted University of Ilorin. Beyond that, I want to get that particular tweet, except it has been put down on their page. I think it has been put down now. Maybe the thing was so really, I have this here, University of Ilorin, JAMB 2025 UTME result. We hereby write to appreciate you on how the development of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination was handled by the Joint Administration and Matriculation Board under your leadership. As a university, we want to put on record that the fact that the board approached the issues that arose on the result with truthfulness and nothing was hidden from the public. This approach, demonstrated courage, honesty of purpose, integrity, strength of character, and on the whole, a call to the younger generation to emulate those positive values. We pray that God will continue to lead you and grant you the grace to be more invaluable to our country. Well done, sir. And we are indeed very proud of you.
No, I think I now understand. They were not supporting the organization JAM. They were just trying to give support to the man himself. That's Professor Ishak Oloyede, for him to be bold enough to have taken responsibility. But again, that's not enough. Failure is failure. I mean, that's affected so many lives. So they were just trying to support the man himself, that's Professor Ishak Oloyede, just trying to encourage him that you did the right thing by owning up, by apologizing. But again, it's not enough. Nigerians who are calling for him to resign are well-meaning Nigerians, and I am one of them saying resign. When you fail, you resign. It's as simple as, you don't even need people to tell you to resign. You don't need people to tell you to step down. So fine, they're just trying to show him support. But again, it doesn't change the fact a lot of lives have been affected.
Why I get that they can do that, in what capacity is Unilorin doing that? Does Oloyede own Unilorin? If they want to write him as a person, they will write him as a person, not as JAMB registrar. That is the thing. And people are thinking, is this a business of you? What exactly are you doing when you do that? That means you are trying to say he has done well, by owning up and the way he has handled the whatever. So when another registrar or former VC of, let's say, Unilag, gets to that position and something like this happens, there will be solidarity.
No, there should be no
now, all of us are hinging that we should have a nation that is accountable, that is leaders and accountable very well, but they're not just accountable, in which they have the honor of recognizing the position in which they occupy, for them to know that this that I've done, even if I didn't plan it and I've worked my socks off to get the best, but this hasn't gone well, I must leave that position. That's the way it's done all over the world.
Again,
in fact, it is people who will be saying, you've done your best, Prof, please hold on, please go ahead with it. But the fact that the man admitted, does he have any choice than to admit? And he cried. So everybody should, and you see those guys that were applauding.
They were applauding. Again, for me, let's look at it from this angle. Sincerely, the greatest sign of integrity would have been for him to step aside.
And that doesn't mean you won't still get another appointment.
That's the greatest.
Because people will say, oh, maybe we have a ton of events and people are becoming accountable. People doesn't have to call for your sack.
Absolutely.
Just say, this is the way to do. And he's a professor, for God's sake. He can never be hungry for life. He has been a former VC of a federal university. Appointment will be rolling in for him. But the fact that, I've dropped the ball. And what does that show? Anybody coming in that particular establishment will know that if you drop the ball, before it gets to the public, I will deal with all of you, because the buck stops at the leader's table. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Now, because the man has come and he has shed tears, I want to say maybe it's genuinely, but that doesn't. What happens to the dead Timileyin? What happens to many of those students who will never hear their cry, will never see their cry, and in which they have been lambasted by their parents?
Them, their egos have been bruised, their self-esteem has been bruised.
To make the matters worse, the exam will start, is it not today?
Today,
16th. An error was discovered earlier in the week. You want to start the exam.
Later,
How?
Later.
What happened to the traumatized child? What happened to the child that has been crying?
What time do they have to prepare again to rewrite examination?
How about their parents that we need to support them to take them to the exam center? You mean they have to leave their business again? These are some of the things we should see. It's not the way it should be. But then we keep talking about the system, and it's not because, when you call for accountability, people say you has been too harsh.
It's not been.
And you will see people saying, who cannot make mistake? Are we perfect? The man has apologized. Do you want to kill him? And that's the why people will keep living this system and going to that system in which, if it happens, that is exactly what they will do, because they know it's not because they just want to stay there perpetually. It's because they have a work to do. And this should be a sign, including ourselves from this end, and every other institutions, MDAs of the government, that for you to come out with a position, make sure you've done your thorough job. Absolutely. If there's any individual cannot do the job, get them out of that system, because at the end of the day, nobody's talking about the man in charge of the ICT, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about the man in charge of the computers or the hitch. Nobody knows their name.
He's not directly in charge of those areas.
We need to handle that.
He's the leader.
But it takes the decision. I'm sure they've had several meetings to say, we are ready to churn out the results. We are ready. Are you ready? You are ready. It will have called for the head of administrations, give me your report, and he's the one who will take the final decision and say, roll it out. So nobody will know the name of the account officer, the guy in charge of the computers, the guy in charge of the ICT, the gate man who didn't open the door on time, or the guy who didn't do what he's supposed to do. Everybody will look at the Oloyede, and every Oloyede is in charge of your administration. So that's why you never allow anybody to stop the good work. And, I want to say, it took JAMB from a particular position to where it is right now. We can't just rubbish everything that he has done. But some have problem that, okay, remittances are now being done by JAMB, and some have issues with that to say that should not be the number one priority.
It has become a revenue generating organization.
Just like Jacob Sule said yesterday, you shouldn't be competing with the like of FIRS and customs in generating funds. That is not your core duty. Yes, you have to be accountable. But when you see JAMB come out with, we have remitted 100 billion naira, that should be a particular statement that should be, on that part of your achievement, but should not be number one thing. What is the quality of what you are doing? And this is a national, embarrassment, so to say the least. But we are hoping that they will do well, although some are calling from the scrapping of JAMB to even say it has outlived its, usefulness, because no matter what you do, universities will still do their UTME. But can we leave that particular administration of admittance of the university students only to the whims and campuses of the universities? Because some don't trust those institutions as well.
That was my point yesterday.
They might do and undo with it if we leave it solely to them to handle that business. Many things to be said. We'll go on this quick break. When we return, we speak to the issues for today. Very soon, if it goes to that particular bill, you will be mandated. You will not have any choice. Every Saturday or any day that is chosen by the Electoral Commission, you must line up. If that rain is falling, you will line up. If that the sun is blazing, you will line up. Or if not, you might be jailed. That is the truth. That will be after now.